Good afternoon, and welcome to Building Support for Technology Integration. This is the second in a series of 4 webinars over the next few weeks, all part of REL West's ongoing support for California districts as they implement the Common Core state standards. My name is Meg Livingston Asensio, and I'm your webinar facilitator for today. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Donna Tuber. She's the team leader for technology integration in the Richland School District 2 in Columbia, South Carolina. Donna, thank you very much for being here today, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Meg, for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here today, and we've got some great strategies to share for building support for technology integration as you move forward with different initiatives in your schools or your district. As the team leader for technology integration in Richland 2, I've been involved in a number of initiatives that have been really successful because of how we've gone about gaining support. In this webinar, we'll ask you to think about how you're rolling out your technology initiative and your plans to scale the initiative and bring about second-order change in your organization. So, a session overview, we're going to talk about the following topics and answer some questions to inform your next steps in your organization. We want to help you with identifying your stakeholders. Is there a common understanding and a vision for your technology initiative? Building your culture and capacity is a very big component of building support. How can you involve teachers and administrators so they feel ownership and commitment to the initiative? And then dealing with resistance. We all know what this feels like. How can you bring different groups of resistors on board and ultimately gain their support? And then finally, but most importantly, communicating a shared vision. How can you keep everyone involved and aware of your technology efforts? So let's get started with a short survey question, and in the lower right-hand corner of your screen you have a check and you have an X for no. So yes is the check and the red X is no. So I'd like you to answer this one question. Are you currently in the process of implementing a new technology initiative in your school or district right now? So if you just click your checks or your X's. Okay, so it looks like we've got a few people who are about to embark on a technology initiative, and we have some others who are possibly in the middle of some initiatives you've had going on for a while. And we'll have time to take some of your questions later if you want to share a little bit more about what you're doing and what you're working on. So thank you for participating in that short survey. So the session that we're about to begin is about building support and should give you some of the tools that you can use as you begin, if you're going to bolster an initiative you currently have or if you're beginning a new initiative. So let me tell you just a little bit about the district that I come from. I come from Richland School District 2 in Columbia, South Carolina. We serve about 27,000 students, and we're currently supporting a one-to-one initiative of more than 21,000 devices for students in grades 3 through 12. We're a Project Red signature district and are, because of that, following a very detailed implementation plan, and we're evaluating our process as we go along, as well as our outcomes, because we want to be successful with our initiative. We're also a part of the Digital Promise League of Innovative Schools, and our superintendent, Dr. Deborah Ham, is working with the other superintendents in the league to bring innovative practices to education. So we're very excited to be part of Digital Promise. To develop our vision for technology integration, we brought together key staff members, parents, and a lot of community members and talked about where we wanted to be in 5 years' time. Through this process, we developed the vision for our technology integration program that was focused on personalized, authentic, and collaborative learning for all students. And we call this IPAC in Richland 2. As a team, we've scaled our technology initiatives through some deliberate identification of key success factors. There is no one formula for success, as I know many of you have experienced this before. But through the extensive research and participation that we have put forth with professional learning communities, we think that we've designed some initiatives to meet the needs of our community of learners. So we're going to have another question now. Back to your check or your red X, a yes for the check and red X is no. Is there a common understanding and vision for your technology integration efforts among the stakeholders in your district? And if you could just answer that question. Is there a common understanding and vision for your technology integration efforts among your stakeholders in your district or school? Give you a minute to give us some checks. Okay, so a little bit troubling results. Some of you feel that you have a common understanding, but I see that others are feeling that you may not have a common understanding. So hopefully this session will really bring some ideas out that you can go back and share with others in your school setting. Having the right goals is essential to accomplishing your vision. In Richland 2, we involved our stakeholders in developing the goals that you see on this slide. Our technology integration goals include improved student learning, meaningful student engagement, 21st century skills for 21st century learners, project-based learning that's personalized, authentic, and collaborative, and equity of access to resources. The goals for student achievement and the 21st century skills support our focus on the Common Core. We purposefully focus on how technology can support the curriculum and transform the learning environment. In our 21st century learning environment, we see that students are collaborating and communicating, they're thinking critically and problem solving, and they're creating products that demonstrate their understanding of the content. These are the key skills that are embedded in the Common Core standards. By focusing on these goals, we're going to be successful with our Common Core implementation, which we're in the middle of right now. So we know that we're on the right track with these technology integration goals in our district. I want to tell you about a few of the initiatives we have in Richland 2. We do have the one-to-one computing initiative, and we have, as I mentioned, rolled out over 21,000 devices for grades 3 through 12. The first initiative that we began a number of years ago was a smaller one-to-one initiative, and we have just scaled that so that we are now district-wide. We could have never been successful with such a massive project without the support and involvement of the staff and the administrators and the parents and the students. We sent our staff on site visits. We researched the impact of one-to-one on student achievement, and we interviewed students to find out their thoughts about going one-to-one. Taking on an initiative like this, puts your feet to the fire. You have to be aware of the reaction of the staff and the students and the parents and the community members, and you have to involve them in the process. Just as we began implementing our one-to-one initiative, Common Core also became a major focus in our district. We've successfully integrated the one-to-one initiative with our Common Core implementation. And throughout this school year, our technology integration team has worked alongside our academics teams to make sure that the technology is seamlessly integrated into the Common Core professional development. We've worked together to include technology in our Common Core configuration map, and we've included technology in our classroom snapshot walkthroughs. Some of the district-level professional development for Common Core has focused on the integration of technology. We had a full day of technology integration for Common Core in October and have been seeing great results from our teachers having that hands-on practice with technology tools that support the Common Core. A new initiative that we have in Richland 2 is our R2 Innovates Innovation Incubator. We ask our teams to pitch their ideas. We ask 4 teams to complete an application and then pitch their ideas. And we have been able to give them mentorship and some financial support to bring their ideas into fruition. And this has been a really interesting process to be a part of because it demands that each team has the passion and the determination to develop their ideas. They have to rapid prototype, they have to iterate based on lessons learned, and they have to scale their initiative to a wider group of customers in a very short time frame. So they're actually practicing some of the things that I'll be talking about today about scaling your initiative. And the ideas have to address a real problem for our school district. And we want these innovative ideas to be scalable and to be innovative practices throughout our school district that will make a real difference in student learning. In contrast to our one-to-one initiative, which began at the district level and moved down to the school level, it's that top-down approach that we're probably all familiar with. The R2 Innovates incubator begins with the school team level, and we hope that each team's initiatives will scale up to be district-wide. So we have the top-down approach with one-to-one, where we are scaling that to the classroom, and then we have the bottom-up approach, where we have these teams scaling something district-wide. And so each project has some unique challenges, both the one-to-one initiative and the R2 Innovates, as well as getting the required support that you need from a wide range of stakeholders. So it's been a good experience for me to be part of two initiatives that are so different in implementation. I'd like to just set the groundwork for what we're the content we'll be talking about by sharing a video with you, and I want to make sure that your computer is muted so that we can just hear the audio back through the phone. This is one of my favorite videos that deals with building support, and it's called First Followers, and it's from Derek Sivers.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
right. Well, thanks for that, Meg, for sharing that video with us. And I'll go ahead and go back to my slide now. We can talk a little bit more about first followers. The video reminds me a lot of the work of Chris Deedy and his research on the scaling initiatives. Scaling up initiatives has proven to be very difficult in education settings. Educators must learn how to adapt innovations that might be successful, and they need to do it under conditions that are often unfavorable. So getting everyone on board is a big task, and it requires some creative problem solving. So I hope that you enjoyed that, because a lot of times I think of that video and I think that's how I felt when we rolled out our one-to-one initiative. You know, the first follower waiting for others to come along and really being worried that people would not come along and wondering how to build that support. So first order change is really easy. If you have an initiative that everyone understands the benefits of, it's easy to push down an initiative from the top and to get some compliance. A change is first order when it's perceived as implemented by experts. Most change in education isn't easy, though. With any technology initiative, you need to look at the magnitude of the change. What changes in teaching and learning will be required to bring about successful integration of technology? A change is second order when it's implemented by your stakeholders. Second order change requires you to work more closely with staff and the community. People will have to learn new approaches which can disrupt their sense of well-being and cooperation. With our Common Core implementation, we don't want our teachers to see technology as an add-on or an additional burden. We need to be strategic in building the support and understanding that the technology is going to help our students to meet those standards. I like to use a ship analogy when describing the process of second-order change. To be successful, you need to have a common agreement about the destination, and all your crew members need to understand what needs to happen to reach that destination. You'll need to know if there are anchors holding you down or you have resistors who will slow you down. I've often used this activity with groups as we've worked through our vision planning. We look at the horizon and where we want to go, and then we work backwards to determine what might be slowing us down, what those anchors are. And this is a good activity that you might consider having, participating with some of your staff members to sort of get started with this idea of second-order change. So let's talk about this getting started. We already talked about having that agreement of the destination, the crew on board. You're going to need to have leadership, and leadership is so key and is, for me, the most important thing in having an initiative be successful. If the leadership at each school is not on board with it, then they are not going to be able to model the use of that technology, and they're not going to be able to provide time for your teachers to have the professional development that they need to implement the technology. You've got to have your supplies and your infrastructure. If you don't have the right wireless infrastructure or device management in place, you aren't going to be able to scale your technology initiative. So you have to pay attention to those details. And you need that compass. You need that compass telling you exactly where to go, and you need to be able to stay on course, and you need to be able to continually evaluate what you're doing. We've been engaged in a process evaluation throughout our entire one-to-one implementation so that we can look at data continuously to inform our next steps, and we can make those mid-course corrections. You can't wait until the end to evaluate, did I get to my destination or not? You've got to really be thoughtful about the entire process and how you are evaluating each step of the way. So that's really what you need to get started. Very important to identify your stakeholders. Knowing those stakeholders means much more than identifying their role in the technology integration plan, but identifying where they currently stand in supporting or derailing your program. Understanding their perspective will provide some insight into how they can be supportive or how they can be supported. In Richland 2, we identified several types of stakeholders, and we identified some strategies for leveraging their value or minimizing the impact. And the groups that we talked about were the trailblazers, the opinion leaders, the resistors, and the settlers. And you may have some other categories that you'd like to add in, but we're going to talk about each of these groups. What's important here is to understand how each type of person can have a role in supporting your technology integration. As a team, you can identify the roles or strategies for leveraging their value and minimizing the negative impact, and you want to bring everyone in. So the trailblazers are those individuals who are always excited and always want to try new things, and I think you know this person. You may be this person. You're very excited about a new initiative. You feel like you can take the ball and run with it. You don't need a lot of support, and you're very enthusiastic. And we know that we have a group of teachers for any technology initiative who are ready to start. But you also have the opinion leaders, and these are the people that others listen to. And it's a very important role that this person plays. So I want you to think about, if you're in a school or have been to a school recently, think about that faculty break room and the teacher who sort of holds court there every day. And I'm very familiar with this person. I don't think I've ever been that person, but I think we all know what it kind of feels like to be in a group where there's someone that everybody listens to. What that teacher says matters, and it matters a lot to others. And you need to have that person on your side, because when you're rolling out a technology initiative, you want the person who can get the support of other teachers to be on board with your initiative. And then we have the resistors. Probably all of us have been resistors at some point. These are the people who really don't want to change the status quo. They're happy with the way things are working right now, and they don't want to rock that boat. I did once have a teacher, as we were rolling out interactive whiteboards, tell me that, you know, if that board was up in her room, that she would never teach from that board, she would never use it, and she just wasn't going to change the way she was doing things. And on top of that, she was really bringing a sort of a bad attitude to the other teachers on the team. So you want to be able to deal with the resistors and make them feel more comfortable with the technology. And then you've got the settlers, and we know those people too. They're probably the people who need more specific direction in order to change. They aren't necessarily resisting your efforts, but they need some help moving forward. This may be someone who's done something the same way for many years, and this teacher will need a lot of support to move forward with your initiative. So I want you to think about the school setting, and I want you to start identifying the groups that you have. Another important structure to have in place is how your departments work together in your school or your district. In Mike Casey's webinar a few weeks ago, he talked about the importance of the IT department and academics department working together. This collaboration is why we were so successful in launching our one-to-one initiative in Richland too. I co-chair the steering committee with our executive director from academics, and we are constantly in touch to make sure that our departments are on the same page. And we're also working very closely together on the Common Core implementation teams. So know your stakeholders, know who these people are. And after you've identified those stakeholders, you need to find ways to involve each group. There are a number of ways you can involve your stakeholders and get their buy-in. And so we'll talk about some things that we've done in Richland too to get that stakeholder involvement. Principal training is very important. We created 2 years ago a technology leadership series, and we hold monthly sessions, and we have some follow-up homework for our principals and assistant principals. And in the sessions, we talk about the role of the school leader in modeling the use of the technology and supporting their teachers by providing time for them to have professional development. We also take a deep dive and we look at topics including information and digital literacy, the 21st century learning environment, and the 4 C's. So it's very important to get your principals on board. They are key in making your initiative successful, and other administrators that you may have in your school or district. Parents are also a very important group. You should always include them in your planning. We knew early on with our one-to-one initiative that parents would have lots of questions, and we created a parent advisory group with a representative from each school. We brought the parents together to hear their concerns, and we shared our vision with them. The teachers came to the meetings, and they shared, and the parents came to the meetings and shared with teachers about their fears, and then the teachers shared some ideas for how they had been using technology with students. and this alleviated a lot of those fears. So our parents have been very supportive of the initiative for one-to-one because of the early inclusion of them in our planning process, and they've actually created a parent handbook for us. Another group we involved was a technical advisory group. We gained community support by creating this group and meeting regularly with business leaders to find out more about how they're implementing technology in their organizations and to get advice about our implementation and to get their support. And then student input is very important, and focus groups with students. So don't forget about the students. To gain support of your program for technology integration, you're going to need your students on board. We had our technology coaches create videos of their students talking about how this one-to-one technology would benefit them. And then we shared those student videos at a meeting with principals, and so that they could hear that student perspective. And throughout our implementation, we've had an outside evaluation team that's held some student focus groups to get input from students on a regular basis. We've looked at the student concerns and we've worked to address those needs. A recent teacher focus group, which we've also had, was very positive, and our teachers, they show up after school. They're very tired, but they show up for these evaluation team meetings so that they can really share their successes and their struggles. And they value the fact that we are getting input from them. And the input gained from these teachers has really helped us to address some of the concerns like filtering of websites that often comes up. And finally, but not last but not least, our technology and learning coaches. We have technology and learning coaches in each of our schools, and these folks have made these programs work for us. We meet with them regularly for train the trainer sessions, and we get feedback about our programs from them. And the TLCs, give them a little love there, they make it happen at their schools, and they go through a quality implementation process with their school-based technology team to make sure that all their school stakeholders are involved with making the program a success at their school site. And a process of continuous quality improvement is in place so that the school teams can monitor and adjust as needed. So time for a little Q&A here, another yes-no question. So you've got your check for yes and your red X for no. Do teachers and administrators have a forum for sharing ideas, concerns, and best practices in your organization? I'll give you a second to take that short poll. Okay, well, we've got some positive comments there. So many of you are saying that you do have a forum in place, and that's very important, that everyone has a chance to talk about how they're feeling. So keep that in mind as you move forward with identifying and involving stakeholders. And back to the vision. We've already talked about the vision we have in Richland too, but you need to create this shared vision with your stakeholders. And I want to reiterate that it must be a common vision for your technology integration initiative to be successful. This can't be about putting devices in classrooms. It has to be about student learning. A common vision that I see lately is the idea of being one-to-one with student computing, and I've just told you about our initiative. But I talk to many educators in other schools and districts, and the first words that I hear out of their mouths when we get together to share is, we're getting laptops or iPads or Chromebooks. And I always ask the question, what is your vision? What are you trying to achieve with student learning? So don't fall into or let others fall into this trap of getting stuff without talking about the student learning and the student environment. And that's really essential in these days with Common Core implementation. Early on in our technology integration plan, we recognized the importance of having a shared vision of what this could mean for our students and our staff and our schools. And we purposefully steered our discussions away from all the stuff for many months, and it was a very difficult process of steering people away from that conversation. But we only started talking about devices and resources after we had decided on a common vision. So our focus on the Common Core implementation has been beneficial in keeping our eyes on the target of student learning and using technology to get us to that target more quickly. So make sure that you concentrate on having that shared vision with your stakeholders. And we've already answered the first question here, what is our vision for technology integration? But a few other questions that you might want to talk about that are very important are what about your goals? What are your desired outcomes for your students? And then a final question, what do we need to do to get there? That's your roadmap. Create a logic model, and you can determine the steps that you'll need to take, that you will need to put into place in order to achieve your desired results. So say some things like, if this, then this will happen. You know, if I do this, this will happen. If we provide professional development to teachers, then student engagement will improve. So put some conditions into place and make sure you ask the right questions and what the desired outcomes are for your students. And so I'm going to pause here, and I wanted to just find out from the chat that's going on if anyone has any questions that I could answer at this point. So if you have any questions.
So we do have one question. Can you be more specific about what the vision is for your district?
Yes, and I do have a vision statement. It's not in the slides, but our vision is to have personalized, collaborative, and authentic experiences for our students, and we have a more detailed vision statement that includes that. But we definitely came up with what it was we wanted to see in the classroom, and a lot of that revolves around project-based learning and having students involved in real-world type problem-solving experiences. And the Common Core standards fit in so nicely with that vision, because we want our students to be able to have those communication, collaboration, critical thinking skills, and the ability to create and decide how to look at different types of digital media and different information, and to create presentations and to research their topics, and all that close reading and supporting claims with evidence. So it fits in very nicely. Well, I think we'll go ahead and move on. We just have a few other things to talk about in terms of setting up your district or your school for success and getting that support that you need for your initiative. So the next thing we need to talk about is surfacing those expectations and concerns. Any technology initiative can fall into the trap of worry, of this. If you don't know what's happening and you're fearful of what could happen, then things may not go so well. And I have some photos up here of some bad experiences in my life, but I'm a terrible boater, and I'm always in a boat that either breaks down for one reason or another, or my own skills topple the kayak, as you can see in this photo. But so I do like to tell my story about hopes and fears by looking at the struggles that I've had with many of my own sporting initiatives. But in every technology implementation, you'll see what Gartner calls the hype cycle. Early in the initiative, you have some high expectations, and that leads to many success stories. But at some point, there are going to be some failures, and you will need to constantly evaluate your initiative to make sure that the failures don't destroy your progress. The trough of disillusionment is going to happen when interest begins to wane or another program comes along to supplant your current program. You can get out of that trough, and you can begin seeing some long-term benefits after you address the concerns that have been raised. And one strategy that really helped us during our early implementation phase of one-to-one computing was an activity referred to as the Fears and Hopes Protocol or activity, and you have access to that in your documents. This activity was introduced to me in 2010 by Betty Manchester of the Maine International Center for Digital Learning. I had the opportunity to meet her, and I talked about our district's initiative and that we needed to learn some things from the experts. and she encouraged me to ask stakeholders about their fears and their hopes. She explained that as the staff begins this new adventure of implementing a technology in the classroom, that it's reasonable for them to have opinions, and that we need to know what those opinions are in order to move the initiative forward. So we conducted this activity online. We completed the activity as an administrative team first, and then the goal was to model this with the administrative team so that they could then go back to their school sites and conduct this activity at the school site with teachers. So for our district, it was really important to make sure that the staff had an opportunity to leave confidential comments and that they didn't have to worry about being singled out because of their hopes or their fears. And I will move forward and share with you, this is one of the first hopes and fears walls that we created. What we found from this wall where we let teachers post their hopes and their fears was very telling. There were some themes and there were some similarities in the staff's comments. We saw that our staff, they lacked confidence in using the technology effectively. They were worried that students would know more than they did, and they were worried that our wireless infrastructure would be inconsistent or unreliable. We looked at our staff's hopes, and we found some really promising comments. There was a common goal of increasing communication and collaboration opportunities for staff, students, and parents. And I will show that document. You may want to try this in your organization if you're getting ready to move into a new technology initiative, and get people to leave their hopes and fears, and you can get a good sense of what people are thinking and where your stakeholders are. A good follow-up to the hopes and fears activity would be to take the hopes and create some yes and statements. You could say something like, we hope that student engagement will improve. Yes, and we want our students to collaborate more. Yes, and we want our students to have authentic learning experiences through virtual field trips. So taking some of those hopes and then doing the yes, and activity can give you a lot of enthusiasm, and the brainstorming will help teachers to think about how they can move this initiative forward. And if they're starting to feel a little bit tired, you can take them back to this activity and let them look at those hopes and those fears again. We've got to build that culture and capacity. So how can you involve your teachers and administrators so they feel some ownership and they feel some commitment for your technology integration initiative? And I've got some ideas up here. You can definitely share best practices. What we've done in Richland 2 is host hangouts on air, and we've allowed our teachers to share some of the things that they've learned with other educators around the United States. And that's been very successful in helping teachers feel a part of the organization and that they're contributing something that's valuable outside of our district as well as inside of our district. We've also showcased student learning in as many ways as we can. We have a department blog where we ask administrators and technology coaches to give us some ideas of what's going on in their school, to share photos and student products, and we post those and we highlight that and share it out with the world. And so that's another opportunity to build that culture and capacity. Involving the school board. You really need to get school board involved with your initiative, because they're going to have a lot of questions when you make board reports, and they're going to want to see results of student learning. One activity that we had last year was a hangout for some of our students. We had students who were in Birmingham, Alabama, and they were reenacting the March on Birmingham. They had created a video of their march, and we were able to bring them in via hangout to talk with the school board about what they were learning in Birmingham. And that was a really authentic experience and a great opportunity for our students to feel a part of the organization. So you want your students to be excited about what they're doing with the technology. You want everyone to feel like they have something to contribute. We've also had some speakers come into our high school and our high schools and some of our middle schools to talk with students about technology. We brought in a Good to Know program about internet safety to one of our middle schools. So anything that you can do to involve the students is very important, and to give teachers a chance to showcase the things that they have done in the classroom. It's a great way to build that culture and capacity. When principals and assistant principals read on the blog about their teachers and their students, they want to make this work at their school. They want technology integration to continue to move forward. Another big thing that we've done in Richland, too, is to host an annual summit. So we have the South Carolina Midland Summit each summer, and we're entering our third year. And it's been one of the best ways to involve teachers and create that enthusiasm for our technology integration initiatives and for implementation of the Common Core. When we began the planning phase of one-to-one, I asked for support from some of our partners because I wanted to provide this top-notch event that would be as good as any national technology conference. We wanted our teachers to be excited about using the technology with students, and we knew that they needed to have some hands-on time to learn about that technology. We also wanted them to share the vision, and we felt that our keynote speakers would inspire them to action. So the teachers left the first summit saying that they wanted to go right back to their classrooms, even though it was the beginning of the summer, and to begin teaching with the new technology. The word spread, and our 2013 summit was even more successful, and we're now planning our third annual event, and this is an event that's bigger than ever. We get really excited seeing the high level of technology integration sessions that are being offered by teachers for teachers, and the focus is on the content and the instructional strategies, with the technology being seamlessly integrated. So we're very excited about the summit, but that's something that we did to really build the culture and capacity of our organization. And I talked about students a little bit. These are some students at Blythewood High School. Our schools have done a lot to involve students. This is what an example of a high school student help desk. So our high school technology and learning coaches worked together as a group to develop this student help desk concept. And we now have these student tech groups in every high school, and the students help with troubleshooting equipment problems, and they provide help to teachers and students in using the technology. And you can see that the students really like to be involved and to have a way to share their expertise with other students. And then another way to build that capacity at the school level is to make everyone at the school feel really a part of the initiative. So at Blythewood High School, you can see here in these photos that the teachers and students, they were involved with the distribution of the Chromebooks. Our district team provided assistance, but the school level personnel really had to make this initiative work for their learning environment. So teamwork is essential in building that culture and capacity. We'll talk for a minute about those resistors. Dealing with resistance is probably one of the biggest things that you'll encounter as you try to bring a technology integration effort into routine practice. So how can you bring these different groups of resistors on board and gain their support? You need to examine your initial project model to identify some of the threats. Use a brainstorming session to talk about the yes buts. So this is your time, instead of yes ands, to talk about those yes buts that might happen as you roll out your technology integration initiative. You can say something like, students will have equal access to technology. Yes, but students will break devices. Yes, but parents won't pay the repair fees. And if you can go through this activity, you're going to be able to start articulating the potential resistance so that you can come up with a game plan for some of these naysayers. District level teams and school teams need to be in place in order to deal with the resistance. In addition to your district level team, we have school level technology teams, and we have Common Core implementation teams to work through problems that might be unique at an individual site. One effective strategy we have is to offer more professional development opportunities for teachers who are seen as those resistors. An increase in their confidence and their comfort with the technology will very likely lower their resistance to the effort. And you can provide for multiple learning and sharing opportunities like professional learning communities and collaborative planning time for teachers. That's going to help with these resistors. You can also provide innovative opportunities for teachers to learn and to share. They can post their ideas on websites or blogs. They can have hangouts with teachers from around the country, and you can put them in touch with others through online communities. And those things can help teachers feel more comfortable about using the technology in the classroom and integrating it into those Common Core initiatives. To communicate your shared vision, you've got to keep everyone involved. So build a distributed leadership team. You need to have people who can form teams, and you need to have people who can lead teams. So organize work groups around your needs. For our one-to-one initiative, we had a procedures team, a resource integration team, a professional development team. For Common Core, we have Common Core implementation teams focused on different activities. So the original idea that you come up with must be open to adaptation to sort of fit the needs of each school. You may have a general idea for how this technology integration will look throughout your organization, but it will need to be customized for each individual school. And let people know that they can have ownership of this initiative, even though they're, so that they can have that shared vision. Learning technologies must be tailored to your needs, and we need to know that, we need to understand what the technology can do for student learning in order to get everyone on board. So in Richland 2, we periodically pull together our technology and learning coaches and our principals together, and we talk about the vision that we have so that everyone understands the important role that the principal plays and that the technology coach plays in making the initiative successful. And these are our technology and learning coaches in this photo planning some of the professional development for teachers. One example of how we've been able to communicate the shared vision to a larger group of teachers has been through the summit that I told you about. Last summer we had a keynote and we had sessions on blended learning, and we were able to share the concept and provide teachers with hands-on training with this blended, flipped classroom environment. These teachers went back to their schools and they made these ideas sort of go viral through the school district. The first followers to attend the summit are now kind of hard to distinguish in a crowd because many other teachers are now trying blended learning in their classes. I had a vendor recently call and ask me why the usage of their product was so high in our district, and I said it's because we provided a full day of professional development to integrate that resource into our Common Core standards training for teachers. And so it's very important to provide good professional development, and that will help build that culture and capacity. So the conditions for success we've already looked at. Obviously, you've got to have access to the technology for technology integration to happen. You've got to have ongoing professional development, and you need to have that technology integrated into high-quality instruction. And continue to look at those conditions of success as you move throughout your implementation. And just to talk a little bit further about one of those conditions for success, if we look at professional learning, we know that that's very important. Professional learning has to be delivered well in order for your initiative to be successful. So in Richland 2, we've looked at 8 quality dimensions for professional development, and they are tailoring, the ease of transfer, the time for practice, availability of support, engagement, coaching, collaboration, and feedback. And we found that these qualities are far more important than the amount of time spent in professional development, although we do know that teachers need time for practice. So using data to inform your next steps is really critical. You need to survey your teachers and find out if they need more time for practice or more feedback from the technology coaches, and you need to be able to create some action steps to address the problems. So we get feedback like this very frequently throughout the implementation of one-to-one initiative and Common Core, and this data is able to inform our decision as we move forward. So finally, we want to talk about just spreading this. Once you've built some support, gotten your stakeholders on board, built that culture and that capacity for people, you really want them to spread this innovation throughout your organization down to the classroom level. So thinking about the first followers video, you were able to see that dancing spread more and more as people became involved, and it's a major step. So the dimensions of scale are starting with depth, obviously having the vision and the depth to know what you want to do, being able to sustain that effort, having the resources and knowing that you can sustain your initiative. And then this spread, or this idea of diffusion, you're going to let go of kind of ownership of this, and you're going to shift this ownership to the classroom level. So it's no longer the district initiative, it's the teacher's initiative and the student's initiative. And then you have the evolution, which is where you make it your own. You keep the good things about it, but you make it better because you've had the experience of innovating in the classroom and integrating this technology. So I'd like you to think about, once you have this initiative, how are you going to spread it, and how are you going to shift ownership of this initiative from perhaps that top-down model to where it's a classroom-based model, and the teachers and the students have ownership of integrating that technology effectively for Common Core. And then the last tool that I'll share with you that's been very valuable in Richland 2 is our quality implementation checklist. We've worked with an outside evaluation team who worked with us, and they developed a more comprehensive quality implementation process that our teams at each school work through. But part of that is a checklist, and we provided you with a checklist. So it's, I believe it's called the Building Support Checklist. I'm going to click on that so that you can see some of the items on the checklist. But these are things that we provide to our schools so that they can really look critically at what they're doing and whether they have the support that they need for this initiative. So you've got the things that the teacher needs to be able to do. Do teachers know the goals of your initiative? Have they received the needed training? Is their professional development aligned to instructional goals, aligned to Common Core? Do teachers have opportunities to work together and share ideas? So those are just some of the types of questions we ask, and we have a checklist for principals, we have a checklist for technology coaches, we have a checklist for our own district personnel, and we really spend time going over the checklist with our school teams on a regular basis to make sure that we have all the conditions in place so that we can be successful with the technology integration. You do have access to that tool. So you are going to have the experience of a lifetime as you build support for your technology integration program that supports your Common Core. With thoughtful preparation and involvement of the key people, you're going to be able to build support and scale it so that each classroom teacher feels included. Your teachers and your students will make the initiative even better as that initiative evolves to meet individual needs. So watching the process from start to finish has really been amazing for me. Starting with a big idea in a room with just a few people, our one-to-one initiative, which supports the Common Core implementation, has really grown and evolved so that the origin of the idea is really no longer important. It's about what's happening in the classroom. So I hope that you can use some of the tools that I've provided today to shape and build support for your technology integration initiatives. And I want you to open yourself up to listening to the needs of others in your organization and find ways to make the movement happen with your first followers. And at this point in the presentation, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And while we do talk and discuss some of your questions, you can get more information about Richland 2 from some of the links that I have posted. So I'll be happy to take your questions. And you can type those in the chat area. And I do see one question, what's the difference between availability of support and coaching? And that's a great question. We actually just changed the title for our technology and learning coaches. They were instructional technology specialists. And because of that, they were often thought of as that IT support person, that person who could go in and, do some basic troubleshooting, just, kind of help them out when they needed help. So availability of support is, it's important to have support, and I may have to go back and reference the slides, but the coaching model is where these technology coaches are working with teachers in the classroom. They're modeling the use of the technology. They are working with them on lessons and creating activities that integrate the technology, and then they are giving feedback to teachers after the teachers have taught an instructional unit. Then the coach is there to facilitate and to provide support while the teacher is working on that with students, and the coach is also available to provide feedback. And that's something we know we're working on, so we're working with a peer coaching model. And one thing we've learned as we've begun our training is that with peer coaching, the classroom teacher wants to have someone who is a leader in their school, but also someone who is very enthusiastic about learning with them. So it does need to be someone they respect, but also someone who can learn with them. It's not necessarily the expert who's there to just provide support, but the expert who is actually learning with the teachers.